So what we're starting with today is integers. Integers is the basic of math, right? Integers means positive, negative, whole numbers, okay? So it can be a decimal. It cannot be something that has a decimal in it. So it could be a 0, could be negative 1,000, could be positive 100. It could be any number from negative infinity to positive infinity, including the 0, but it has to be a whole number. When we're dealing with integers, we're either multiplying them, dividing them, adding them, or subtracting them. Okay? So here are the rules. We're going to start with multiplying and dividing integers. So if you're multiplying a positive by a positive, you're going to end up with a positive. Right? Positive times positive is positive. Now, when you multiply a positive by a negative, it's going to be a negative. Same with if you're multiplying a negative by a positive, you're going to end up with a negative. The minute you multiply two negatives together, it's going to become a positive. Okay? So these rules are written on this pink sheet that's going to stay on the wall the whole semester. Okay? So a positive times a positive is a positive, positive times a negative is a negative, negative times positive is a negative, and negative and a negative is a positive. I mean, you can do that on a calculator as well, right? But it's good to know so you have a common sense if your answer is correct or wrong, right? So let's look at the first example here. I have negative 2 all in brackets to the power of 2. What does that mean? If I wanna write it something in multiplication, what am I doing here? That's right. I have a negative 2 multiplied by itself. That's what squareds mean. Okay? So if you have, I'm going to give you another example. So if a squared, right? That means a times a, right? So if you have negative 2 squared, that means it's negative 2 times negative 2. Right? That's the same thing. What's a negative times a negative? Positive. And 2 times 2 is 4. So my answer is positive 4. Are we okay with that? Okay? Now, the brackets are very, very important because it's telling me that negative 2, the whole negative 2 is squared. Okay? Now, if you look at the second question, you have negative 2 squared. There's no brackets. Okay? What does that mean?
2 times 2, not negative.
So, you see that negative here? It's not raised to the power of 2 because there's no brackets. Okay? So that means you have negative, and then you have the 2 multiplied by itself. So I have a negative 2 multiplied by a positive 2. So what's my answer going to be here? A negative 4. Okay? And this is where knowing your common sense things like this is going to help you, because some calculators will give you the brackets right away. Some calculators will not. And you need to be able to know if your answer is correct or wrong. Okay? Because some calculators, for some reason, when you put a negative, it puts it in brackets right away. But you don't want that, for example, for the second one. Okay? And sometimes you do have yourself to enter that bracket. So you have to make sure that what you're doing makes sense. Now, multiplication and division follow the same rule. Okay? So if you're dividing a negative by a negative, it's going to become positive. If you're dividing a negative by a positive, it's going to become negative. Okay? So they follow the same exact rules as this. Okay? So you have a negative 8 divided by a negative 2. Positive 4. Okay? Because remember that a negative divided by a negative is positive.
Why is that one in brackets the negative 2?
Because they don't like to write things like this,
Okay.
right? It
Let's
just,
down low.
yeah. This is the same thing as writing this, right? How about the second one, negative 8 times 2? What would my answer be? Negative 16. We're multiplying. Yeah. Tricked you there, didn't I? Yes, it's a negative 16. Negative because it's a negative and a positive, so it's going to stay a negative. And then 8 times 2 is 16. Are we okay with the multiplication and division part? Okay? Good. Now these are the easier stuff. Okay? Then we're going to do adding and subtracting integers. Okay? So, when you add two positive integers, obviously you're going to end up with a positive, right? Because if you have 2 plus 5 is 7. Right? We know that since JKS, right? Now, what happens if I have a positive and a negative number that are added together? Okay, so let's look at, for example, if you have negative 10 and plus 7. Okay, so you owe me $10, but you paid me 7. Are you still owing me, or we're good? You're still owing me, right? How much are you owing me? 3. So this is where the answer is going to be negative 3. Right, because you're owing me. So let's look at the deal of it. So you owe me is a negative number, right? You paid me, it's a positive number. Good? The negative number is bigger than the positive number, so the negative wins. That's my answer is negative. Okay? So if the negative is a bigger number, then your answer is going to be negative.
So the negative 10 is the owe me?
Yes. Right? Anything that's negative is owing. Think about it as you're owing someone.
Is also considered subtraction.
That is right from 7. You're subtracting 10 from 7.
So anything that's negative is owing.
Yes. Okay? Also, you can think about it this way. So, do you guys remember the number line? Do you guys remember number line? The line that, they show you the 0 in the middle and then you have negatives. Right? To the left of it. How many of you remember this? Okay, good. And then the positive part to the right. Right? So if you are at negative 10, for example, if you are at negative 10, I'm just going to put negative 10 here. Right? And then you're moving 7, you're adding 7. So you're going to have to move 7 to the right until you get to a point. Right? Do you guys remember that? So you're starting at negative 10, and then you're going to add 7, so you're going to move to the right 7. Okay? It's just for you to think about it in your head, please. Like, if you don't, it's going to take you forever if you're going to do it on a piece of paper like that, but just for you to kind of visualize. Now, what if you're a negative and you're adding another negative? What's going to happen?
It'll become a positive.
You're adding, so it's going to stay a negative. Because think about it this way. You owe me $10, and now you also owe me an extra $5. How much do you owe me now? 15, right? Right? Think about it this way. You owe me 10. Then you owe me another 5. So now you owe me 15.
Is it negative?
So it's negative 15. You owe me, you still owe me. Right? So the owing is adding up, right? To a more negative number. So let's look at this. 5 take away 6. What is that? Negative 1. Right? Why is it negative? The 6 is a bigger number. Right? And the 6 has a negative in front of it. So that's negative 1. Good. How about negative 5 minus 6?
So it's negative 1 to 6 is the biggest number?
That's right. So negative 5 take away 6 is, I heard you guys say it, negative 11. Right? We're at negative 5, you owe me 5, now you owe me an extra $6. So that's a negative 11. Okay? We don't really have to worry about this too much because the calculator does it for us. But at the same time, we want to be math literate, which means we need to know if our answer makes sense or not. Okay. The next one. So what do you see here? Tell me what when you look at something like this, what do you see?
First multiply to that addition.
I know what you're saying. Anyone else? Do you see too many negatives? Okay. When you see two negatives after each other, like this, think about multiplication, right? I have a negative times a negative. What does that make? Positive. So this is the same thing as writing this. Okay? Because we learned earlier, right here, we learned that a negative and a negative is positive, right? So if I look here, I have a negative times a negative. They're after each other. So they force it to become a positive. So now I have negative 5 plus 6. So what does that give me? 1. Now, do you see the format that I'm writing in? That means I'm not writing right here. Right? I'm not doing this. Right? Because in math, you can't write on one line. You have to put them under each other. Okay? It's called a mathematical format. And at the beginning of every sentence, we put an equal sign. Okay? So that means this equals to the previous line. This equals to the previous line. Okay? This is format. It comes with practice. Okay? You'll see me practice it on the board with you. How about the next one? Negative 5 plus 19. 14. Right? It's the same thing as saying 19 minus 5, right? In this case, same thing. Negative 5 plus 19 or 19 minus 5, they mean the same. Why is it positive 14? 19 is a bigger number. Right? 19 is a bigger number and it has that positive in front of it. Right? So your answer is going to still be positive. Okay? Always the bigger number wins.
So it's not always the bigger number that the sign supposed to be like added the plus sign or subtracting.
Yeah, but it's you're still subtracting, right? You're still taking that 5 from 19, right? It's the same thing as writing this, right? 19 take away 5, right? But you're still subtracting, so the number is going to be smaller, but the number is going to be positive because 19 is a positive number and it's a big number.
I'm seeing negative 5 plus 19, so that's kind of confusing. That no negative plus supposed to be negative. Like
That's when you're multiplying. We're not multiplying here. Right? If you have this, then your answer is going to be negative whatever 9 something. Okay? But because you're adding, right, the bigger number wins. Okay? Again, I want you to be to understand this, but I don't want you to feel like this is gonna drain, okay? Because the calculator will do it. Okay, moving on to order of operation. The most important thing you learn in math. Okay? It's like when you're manufacturing something. If you do one thing before the other, you're gonna screw up the whole thing, right? Same with math. When it comes to order of operation, you have to move in a certain order. And the order is called BEDMAS. which is brackets, exponent, division or multiplication in the order they appear, addition or subtraction in the order they appear. So the first thing you have to do is you have to simplify what's inside that bracket. Okay? Then you move on to, if you have an exponent, you have to do that exponent. Then you move on to multiplication, division in the order they appear, and then you move on to the addition. How many of you are familiar with BEDMAS? Okay. So when you hear me say BEDMAS, remember that I'm referring to this. Okay, brackets, exponent, addition, division, multiplication, addition. So let's look, this right here belongs to this. So if you want to fix that on your piece of paper, or it's already fixed, it's already fixed. All right, so let's look at the first example. Where do I need to start? Bracket. You see bracket? Go for it. So, equal. I'm going to write everything else the same. My bracket here is 8 divided by 2, so that's 4 plus 1. We're okay so far? Okay. Then I'm done with the bracket. There's nothing else to solve inside that bracket. So I have to move to exponent. Where do you see exponent? 3 to the power of 2. What is 3 to the power of 2? 9. So I'm going to change this to 9. So there's no more exponent, and there's no, basically I can remove that bracket, right? Because there's nothing to simplify inside. Now we have to move to division and multiplication in the order they appear. So moving from left to right, what do you see first? Division or multiplication? Division. Where do you see division? 36 divided by 9. What's 36 divided by 9? 4. So I have to write 40, take away 4, times 4 plus 1. Are we okay with this so far? Okay? After division, I have to look for my multiplication, right? So I have my multiplication here, which gives me 16. And now it's a simple subtraction and addition. You can do that together, right? I can do 40 minus 16, right? Which gives me 24, right? And then add 1, which is 25. Now, again, this can be entered on a calculator as long as you know your calculator very well and you know how you can enter it properly into your calculator. So what I want you to do right now, I want you to try to enter this whole thing in a calculator the same way it appears.
Yeah, I have no idea how to use it.
So this is when we can talk to the person sitting next